I don't think home recording has ever been more confusing than it is right now. Not because people are less talented these days, but because there's so much information, so many tools, and so many opinions that people don't even know what matters anymore. I see this constantly right here on YouTube. I see it with my one-on-one coaching clients, especially when they're new, as well as new members that join my online mixing community. Different people, the exact same frustration. And what drives me crazy, it kind of saddens me a little, is that the stuff that people are obsessing over the most just so happens to be the stuff that actually matters the least. Now, if you happen to be overwhelmed when you sit down to produce and record and mix your own music out of your home studio, this is the video for you. Let's dive into it. Whew, it's cold in here. I'm currently in my new home recording studio that's under construction. That's why I'm talking to you through an SM58 and not my lav mic. Very echoey in here right now and very cold. All right, so let's get right to it. There are 4 very specific reasons why home recording is more overwhelming than it has ever been. Even though, honestly, this is the best time to record your own music at home. But let's talk about it. All right, reason number 1. There's just way too much information and absolutely no filter. There isn't a problem of a lack of education. There's a lack of prioritization. If you've ever looked up mixing tutorials online, or maybe recording tutorials, or you're in message boards, or maybe even using ChatGTP or ChatGTP, however you say it, you're gonna find that there's just endless information, endless conflicting opinions, even sometimes coming from the same source. People will tell you, do this, and then someone else will tell you, never do that. It's extremely confusing, and I totally get it. I just went through the same thing myself when learning about construction when building this new studio, and I was completely overwhelmed, and I wasted a lot of time. So I understand. The problem is, if you're not a professional, it's hard for you to differentiate the difference between something that doesn't matter and something that is crucial. And if you're receiving mixed messages from all over the place, how do you decide? When everything sounds important, nothing feels clear. And unfortunately, right now, as I film this video, it's never been worse, specifically when researching how to produce your own music. All right, and this leads me into reason number 2. Most modern day plugins promise progress without any understanding. In other words, these days, most plugins are marketed as solutions and not tools. I have news for you. Plugins are just tools. No plugin, I don't care what it is, will magically fix your problems. And in today's day and age, most of these plugins, honestly, from what I could see and from what my audience tells me, I can't even keep up with all these new plugins. So many of them are marketed as magical, quick fix solutions, and they are not. You still have to know how to use plugins to achieve great results. I don't care what the plugin is. I see a lot of flashy interfaces, plugins that try to do way too many different things all within one plugin. A lot of complexity, which is an issue if you're a beginner. I've been mixing in the box for 20 years, and older plugins were not really like this. If you used a compressor, it was typically a compressor. An EQ was an EQ. Plugins that did 500 things really didn't exist back then. And honestly, I'm not a fan of those types of plugins in most cases. For professionals, okay, but if you're starting out, or if you don't even know how compression or EQ works, I'd recommend learning your stock plugins first. And also plugin subscriptions where you have access to 5,000 different tools and plugins. How are you supposed to know what to use when you have 300 different plugins to choose from? Again, especially if you don't know the fundamentals. Huge problem. I just want to say this, these modern plugins aren't bad, but in my opinion, they're just bad for beginners or inexperienced producers, and they cause way too much confusion. Okay, reason number 3 why home recording is so overwhelming today. People are mistaking activity for progress. Let me give you some examples. Endlessly tweaking a snare drum for days on end. Trying this compressor on your vocal, and that compressor on your vocal, and this EQ on your guitars. Looking at graphs and thinking about numbers instead of listening. And the fear of commitment. 20 years ago, you couldn't load 500 amp sims in your track. You had to commit, even 10 years ago. And the fact that computers are so powerful today, you could have a million software instruments open and a bunch of amp sims and auto-tune open and 350 different compressors in your mix is not not a good thing. Believe me, especially if you do not understand how these tools actually work at a fundamental level. I've seen this time and time again when working with a new coaching client. We'll go into their mix and they'll have like 7 plugins on their guitar bus and they'll have absolutely no idea what each plugin is doing. They're just applying the plugins because they saw someone doing it in a YouTube video. And there'll be some weird phasey problem and I'll have to go through and mute each plugin and say, okay, you did not need that stereo enhancer on your guitar tracks. It's actually doing more harm than good. Also, a lot of the time people will send me mixes and they'll say my mix isn't loud enough, it's not wide enough, it's not clear enough. And again, much like with the last example, I'll go into their mix and they have 500 plugins on their master bus that's supposed to solve all of those issues. And ironically, once we remove those plugins, the issues are solved. I'm not kidding. I come across incredibly talented musicians that have a great ear otherwise that are honestly just overwhelmed and confused and they're lost in the sauce. Not because they don't know enough or that they don't trust what they hear, but they're just confused by all of the information and all of the tools that they think they should be using. All right, and this leads me to the big one and the one that I'm the most passionate about because honestly, it's the most important one. If there's one thing that I want you to take away from this video, it is this. And my hand is freezing. It's cold in here. Are you ready? Reason number 4. The basics don't feel exciting, so they simply get ignored. The thing is, the stuff that actually matters and the stuff that yields real professional results is the stuff that honestly, no one cares to talk about because you can't really sell it and it's not as fun as tweaking a new plugin. But let me give you some examples. Songwriting and arranging. If you have a great song and a great arrangement, your production will honestly sort of take care of itself. And when you're mixing, basic balance. And what I mean by balance is just setting the right levels in your DAW. It's free, it costs you nothing. Basic EQ. Again, the EQ in your DAW is more than good enough to produce the results that you really want. You just have to understand EQ and compression. So many people that I know have absolutely no idea how compression actually works. They'll drop all this money on plugin bundles that have all these fancy compressors, but they actually don't even know how to dial in the compressor that they already have. Big problem. Understand the basics of EQ and compression. It goes a long way. The problem is, what I just shared with you is not trendy, but it's timeless. Clarity beats complexity every time. Having confidence when you record and mix your music beats having endless options. Having fewer tools usually yields better decisions. Trust me, I have thousands of plugins and I've uninstalled at least 80% of them on my computer. And people send me free plugins and I still don't use them. I'm telling you the truth. The truth is that the fastest progress comes from understanding the fundamentals deeply, not by endlessly collecting more solutions. So if you can relate to anything that I'm sharing in this video, I feel you. And honestly, I want you achieving better results with the gear you're currently using that you already have. And because of this, right now I'm offering you direct access to my free training, 4 dead simple ways to massively improve your recordings and mixes. In the training, you'll learn my #1 technique for prepping guitar tracks that virtually mix themselves. You'll also learn how to create instantaneous clarity within your mix using any old stock EQ plugin. Finally, learn how to take control over the levels in your mix so that instruments stop fighting with one another. And you'll also learn how to craft radio-ready vocal mixes using only stock plugins. Full disclosure, if you have the attention span of a squirrel and you'd rather just endlessly scroll TikTok, the training is not for you. It's almost an hour in length and pretty in-depth, but it will teach you things that actually matter and that will yield results for you immediately. Timeless techniques that are completely independent of the plugins that you're using. The plugins that you're using don't really matter. It's your technique that matters. So if you'd like to learn more and dive deep with me, there's a link below in this video's description to the free training. Click the link and enjoy. So as a viewer of my channel, I'm curious to know your opinion. Are you overwhelmed in today's day and age with all the options that are thrown your way, both when it comes to gear and all of the differing opinions that are spread across the internet on audio production? Please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear what you've been up to in your home studio. I'd love to hear your opinions. Drop a comment. I will read it. If you found this video helpful, like, comment, subscribe, and share. And don't forget to click the little bell icon so you can be notified every time I upload one of my weekly videos on all things metal and rock production. And until next time, drink that Rippin' Roasters.